rise. The court is now in session. The Honorable Dana Tonelli presiding.
Now continues the trial of the people versus Jesus of Nazareth. You may be seated. Are all parties ready?
The attorney for the prosecution is ready.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense is also ready. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the trial of Jesus of Nazareth is about to continue. He is charged with being a religious fraud, misleading his followers, and claiming to be the promised Messiah. You, the congregation, are the jury. You are officers of the court, and as such, each of you has a vital part to play in this trial. No one here is a mere spectator. As members of the jury, your duty will be to pay close attention to everything that is said. Weigh the evidence for and against Jesus of Nazareth, and pronounce the final verdict. Will you rule in favor of the defendant's claims that he is the Son of God? Or will you side with the prosecution and declare that Jesus' life was an immoral misrepresentation and his resurrection was nothing more than a criminal hoax? Your decisions in this courtroom will forever change your life. Mr. Bailiff, please swear in the jury.
Will the congregation please rise and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will well and truly try the case, the people versus Jesus of Nazareth, and render a true verdict according to the evidence and the law? So help you God? If so, answer, I do. Please be seated.
Prosecutor, call your next witness.
The prosecution calls James Bar Joseph to the stand, please.
Witness, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please tell the jury your full name and address.
I am James, the son of Joseph. I grew up in Nazareth and currently reside in Jerusalem.
And what is your connection with this Jesus of Nazareth?
He is my brother.
Literally? Your brother? Your actual brother? I mean, no offense, but you all seem to call each other brother and sister. Were you really Jesus' brother, or do you simply mean that you were a part of his family of disciples?
He is my biological brother, or at least perhaps my half-brother. His mother is my mother. The Bible lists us brothers together: Jesus, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. We also had sisters. I was the second oldest brother in our family.
So Jesus was the oldest brother, or the oldest son, and you were the second oldest.
Yes.
Is it true then that when Jesus was born, he was taken to the temple for a special ceremony to dedicate him to the Lord?
Yes, he was.
And were you also dedicated in this way?
No, the ceremony is only for the firstborn son.
And when Jesus, your older brother, was age 12 and clearly everybody's favorite, wasn't there a big fuss about him being left in the temple? Didn't he sort of steal the show from the rabbis?
Yeah. It was a fun year. In all that, the rush of the whole extended family leaving Jerusalem after Passover, we kind of left Jesus behind. And when Mom and Dad found him, there he was in the temple teaching the wise rabbis. But, as you know, Mom loved me too. You don't have to go around saying Jesus was clearly a favorite.
My apologies, my apologies. I'm sure it wasn't easy living in Jesus' shadow all the time. That must have been hard for you, particularly being the second son, when the first son gets so much more in Jewish tradition. Jesus, being the oldest, did he not receive a double portion of the family inheritance?
Yes.
And of the family business?
Yes.
The family carpentry shop?
Yes.
And as a young man, did he not become the most famous teacher in all the land of all of Israel?
Yes, he did.
And did he not have the same meager education that you had? Yet you were a nobody compared to your brother.
Well, hold on just a minute.
And isn't it true that your mother Mary claimed to have had a divine vision about Jesus before he was born?
Yes, but it was really more of...
Now, could you tell us a little bit more about that vision?
Well, I'd be happy to if you just give me a chance to speak. God sent an angel to tell her that she was going to give birth to the Messiah, the Son of God. The angel also appeared to my dad, Joseph, to let him know it was okay to take Mary as his wife, and that her pregnancy was a miracle from the Holy Spirit.
That truly is an amazing story. Did your parents ever say such grandiose things about you?
No, of course they didn't.
Okay, thank you. So let's see. Jesus was the oldest son. He was the only child dedicated in the temple. He was the only child to entertain rabbis as a young star in the temple. He was the only child to receive a double portion of the family inheritance. He was the only child to publicly succeed and be famous throughout the entire land. And he was the only child that your parents had grandiose visions about. In other words, James, didn't you spend your entire life playing second fiddle to your brother? Isn't that true?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. Just be sure to give a witness a chance to respond, Mr. Counselor. Please answer the question.
Well, I don't know if I can. I don't understand what you're asking.
You don't? Well, isn't it true that as an adult, when you heard the claims that Jesus was making, you thought he was nuts, and that you and your brothers and sisters all went to seize him because you thought he had gone crazy?
Well, you've obviously been reading the scriptures, so you already have the answer to that.
At the height of Jesus' popularity, isn't it true that you wanted your brother to be committed to a mental institution?
No. Maybe. I don't know. We just wanted to take him home so he could get hold of himself. He was saying such bold things that we were concerned.
Isn't it true that you were deeply envious of your brother? And you spent your whole life trying to get rid of him so you could replace him as the number one son in the family?
No, you do not understand. You twist everything.
Well, let me see if I can untwist it for you. In Exhibit A, the Bible, it says, and I quote, "His brothers and sisters did not believe him, and that you thought he was," quoting again, "out of his mind." It's a fact. You wanted Jesus to be put away, didn't you, James?
No, that is not true.
All right, very well. Let's move on. Please tell the jury what happened on that infamous Friday.
My brother was killed.
Where? What city did this happen?
He was crucified in Jerusalem.
And where were all of his followers?
They ran away and abandoned him.
And with Jesus out of the way, who eventually became leader of this so-called church in Jerusalem?
Well,
Answer the question. Who stepped right in to become the leader, the number one head honcho of the church in Jerusalem?
I was chosen to be the leader of the church in Jerusalem.
So you finally made it. You finally replaced Jesus.
No, absolutely not. No one replaces Jesus.
You couldn't get him committed while he was alive, but you certainly did benefit from his death.
Yes, I did benefit from his death, but not in the way that you mean.
Isn't it true that after Jesus' death, when you were appointed leader of the church in Jerusalem, that even Peter, the famous rock, was under your authority?
Yes, but again, it isn't like that.
And isn't it true that the Apostle Paul, writer of half of the New Testament and the greatest missionary, had to get your approval as the leader of the church council in Jerusalem? That he came to you to sign off on his gospel message and receive permission to carry it out to the Gentiles?
Yes, but you're making it sound so much worse than it was.
And isn't it true that you became leader of a fanatical group who sold all their property, their houses, their camels and donkeys, and they shared all that they had? Isn't it true that you became the cult leader of a bunch of communal fanatics who gave you all their possessions, all thanks to the death of your brother?
Once again, no, that is not true.
Let's be honest, James. You spent your entire life living in the shadow of your brother. And then when you saw that he was killed, you saw your chance to be number one. So you pretended to be his follower. You pretended that he was the Messiah. You moved into the church and took control of their income and property. You rode into power on the coattails of your dead brother.
That is absolute nonsense. Yes, Jesus died. But that's not the end of the story. Jesus rose from the dead. That's when my life turned around. You don't understand any of this because you don't understand the resurrection.
Resurrection. That again. And I'm the one being accused of nonsense. No further questions. Your witness.
Defense? May approach that.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, with your permission, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. May I call you James?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. You'll have to forgive Prosecutor Henn here, James. He's very overzealous. His objective has been and continues to be an attempt to discredit you as well as your testimony here today. Why? Because he's terrified of having to hear what you say on the stand. He tried to put his own words in your mouth because he doesn't want the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to hear what you have to say for yourself.
Yes, I noticed.
So, you now have the opportunity, James, to tell us and the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you really think. Were you envious of your brother?
Well, I guess so. What brothers don't get competitive once in a while? And Jesus certainly did cast a big shadow to walk in. But all that doesn't matter now.
Did you ever believe that Jesus was the Messiah?
Did I? Well, no, not at first. He was my brother. And I had seen him up close. He was just as human as the rest of us. He ate, he slept, he got acne. I wore his hand-me-down clothes. When we worked with Dad, he had as much trouble hanging a door as I did. He dropped nails. He hit his thumb with a hammer, just as I did. How could he be the Messiah? As once said, he once said, a prophet is not without honor, except in the hometown and among his relatives and in his own household. My siblings and I certainly prove that that was true to him.
But didn't your mother, Mary, tell you about the miraculous birth of your brother Jesus and that he is the Son of God?
Yeah, she told me. She made sure I heard that story.
And did you believe your mother?
Well, yes and no. It's hard to explain. I didn't disbelieve her, but I don't think I believed her either. I guess I just tried not to think about it. It was just too good to be true. This was my big brother. How could he be the Messiah?
You know, you're totally understandable here, James. But do you believe in Jesus now?
Yes, I believe in him wholeheartedly.
Why and what has caused you to believe and you change your position regarding him?
He did. He finally made me see what it was all about.
Can you tell us when that was? What was it that told you about him, and where was it? Where did this occur? Was this when you and your brothers went to get him and bring him home?
No, it was later. It was afterwards.
After what?
After he was killed. It was very difficult to explain.
After he was killed? Oh, you mean after he came back to life?
Yes. The resurrection. Easter. You've heard this story. How he was raised from the dead by the power of God.
Yes, I've heard that story, but it still seems so incredible to me.
It's incredible, almost unbelievable. But I saw him. He also appeared to others, to Mary, to Peter, to the 11, to more than 500 people. They all saw him alive and well.
Are you telling the ladies and gentlemen of this jury that you actually saw Jesus after he rose from the dead?
Yes. To me, his brother of all people, to me who thought he was crazy, to me who didn't believe, to me, his own flesh and blood, who had doubted him.
Can you tell us what it was like to see your brother after he had supposedly died and then rose again?
It was incomprehensible. I can't put it into words. It was Jesus, but he was changed. He had a presence, a divine presence. It was like his full power was finally unveiled. He was alive, speaking to me, talking to me, and all I could do was think about how I did not believe him before.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury exactly what your brother Jesus said to you?
He told me he loved me.
Well, that's all he said to you? He didn't say anything more? Didn't you already know that he loved you? He was your brother, wasn't he? Brothers are to love one another.
No, it was more than that, different from that. Finally, he got through to me. This amazing love for me, for everybody.
What did you then do, James, when you learned this?
I went and I joined the others, told them what had happened.
Did you go back home?
To Nazareth. No. How could I do that? I had to join them in Jerusalem.
Why is that?
How could I not join them? I saw him. I experienced him. I believed him. And these people in Jerusalem did too. They became my new family, my new brothers, my new sisters.
Simply and very clearly, what is it that you want the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to know about your brother Jesus?
He lives. I saw him face to face. First Mary saw him, then Peter, then the 11, 500, and then he appeared to me. I want you to know he truly rose from the dead, and he lives. And because he lives, I am a new man with a new mission in life.
And what should this jury do regarding Jesus of Nazareth?
Love him. Don't wait as long as I did to accept the truth. Jesus, the Messiah, the Son of God.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your testimony here today. Your Honor, I have no further questions of this witness. Thank you.
The witness may step down. Prosecutor, you may make your closing statement.
It is very difficult for us in this day and age to understand a system that is so obviously unjust. A system that grants such great advantage to one brother over another just because he was born first. But it is not difficult to understand the immense rivalry, yes, sibling rivalry that is provoked by this situation. James was driven by envy his whole life. Thus, it's not difficult to understand the shameful fact that he took advantage of his brother's gruesome death to win what he could not win during his brother's life: power, prestige, wealth. But what a base, hollow victory. And what a base, hollow man. The intriguing thing is the way he engineered his rise to power. And this is our true concern. The way he has fabricated and melted this resurrection tale. Oh, but it wasn't just I. Others saw him too, James claims. Right, a hysterical woman, 11 grief-stricken friends, other followers who couldn't afford to let the world know that their Messiah was a failure, a fraud. Please don't let me hear that you, good jurors, are tempted to believe this resurrection lie. Really? A dead man rising? Walking around? It sounds like the stuff of wishful thinking, fairy tales, dreams, nightmares. Yes, nightmares indeed. It is a nightmare when good people bet their lives on a lie, a fraud. I say, find this man guilty and let us wake up from this nightmare.
Defense, you may make your closing arguments.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have just heard the testimony of James, the brother of Jesus. He knew Jesus as well as anyone did. He grew up with Jesus as they were brothers. We've heard that Jesus was the firstborn and that James was the secondborn. Jesus and James worked together. They played together. They went to school together. Yes, like a lot of people, James did not understand Jesus at first. But then came the event that James could not deny. His own brother was crucified and then rose back to life. This story of the resurrection of Jesus is so incredible. If James was only after money and praise, as prosecutor Henn claims, why would James cling to such a story that's so hard to believe? No, James believes what he claims, and I have to admit, he has convinced me as well. There is simply too much evidence and too much reliable testimony to deny this amazing truth. And now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you must prepare to make that same decision for yourselves. Is Jesus the promised Messiah, the Son of God? Did he die and rise for the forgiveness of your sins and mine? I say he did. James says that he did. What does your heart tell you? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, This trial is not yet concluded. You have heard the testimony of 4 witnesses. This court will reconvene next Wednesday at 7 p.m. to consider the testimony of our final witness, Mary, Jesus' own mother. During the intervening days, you are charged to consider carefully the testimony which you have just heard and search the depths of your heart for guidance. You should discuss this case among yourselves, and you are encouraged to discuss it with everyone you can. Ponder the arguments of counsel and their own motivations for convincing you one way or the other. But lastly, consider the implications of what you have heard and what your verdict will mean for your own life and the relationship with God that might result. Mr. Bailiff, the court will be in recess.
The jury will rise. The court will be in recess until next week at 7 p.m.